singing songs together, like just doing things that the child enjoys. So often each parent is like, well, I like to ski, so I'm going to take my kids skiing all the time. Well, what if your kids don't like skiing? So we can't change the past, Karen. So, what you focus on grows. So if you want to focus on that past, you're going to continue to see that same behavior from the other person, right? So what we want to do, especially in my parent coaching, is we want to focus on, okay, where are you now? And where do you want this relationship to go? And then, keep that communication business-like. Take out all the emotion and just get across what needs to be get across, communicated, and see if there's issues that are difficult. That's going to take a bit more communication. But again, the emotion has to be taken out of it to really get to the ground of what you need to discuss is the well-being of your child, right? Nothing else. The other thing I see happening is, parents that they have to it's a simple issue they need to discuss. They send an email, but the email is 3 pages long with all this other crap that went on. I always tell my clients, look, let's adopt a business-like approach, right?
And I just wanted to mention there's a grief component in there, right? One of the things that I've said on other podcasts too is that if it's pretty hard when you see them every day and then you don't see them every day, right? You're doing the whatever 2-2-3 or 1 week on, 1 week off. But I want anyone that's listening to understand when you're sad or you're grieving or however you grieve. As a child of divorce myself, your child's grieving 100% of the time.
But guess what? Your kid is watching you. So they're watching mom take time for herself. They're watching mom value herself. Isn't that what we want for all our kids? To value themselves?
Welcome to Season 2 of the Just Separated podcast. I'm Karen Oman, a thanatologist, grief counselor, divorce strategist, and co-author of the Just Separated workbook. I help people navigate the emotional, legal, and practical challenges of divorce, including high conflict and narcissist relationships. Each week, I am joined by expert guests to share guidance, tools, and strategies so you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and resilience. Follow Just Separated and join us as we explore the many layers of divorce. Subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Hi, welcome to the Just Separate podcast. I'm your host, Karen Oman, co-founder of Divorce Workshop. Today, we're going to talk about raising kids, not conflict, helping parents navigate co-parenting and communication better after separation. And our expert guest today is Natalie McCabe. Natalie is a certified parent coach, educator, author, and devoted mom who brings real-world experience and heartfelt empathy to her work. For 16 years, she balanced the demands of single motherhood, entrepreneurship, and household management, all facing the similar struggles of stress, guilt, and exhaustion. Having lived through the challenges of putting herself last and running on empty, Natalie empowers parents to find balance, rebuild confidence, and thrive both at home and within themselves. In her compelling book, Sink or Swim Parenting, Natalie intricately weaves her personal journey of survival into a guide for thriving. The book is a treasure trove of narratives and actionable strategies covering all aspects of parenting from toddler to teens. Natalie, welcome to the Just Separate podcast.
Thank you, Karen. I'm happy to be here.
So you've lived the reality of parenting after separation yourself. What does raising kids, not conflict, personally mean to you?
It means we don't get the kids involved, right? The kids are not part of this dynamic other than spending time with each parent. They're not part of conversations about finances. They're not conversations about what went wrong in the past. None of that has anything to do with the children because that other parent, they love them. And no matter what they've done to you or whatever, happened, that other parent is part of your child, and you need to know that and respect that at all times because you can't trash the other parent. I worked with another parent coach actually, and he works with co-parents as well. And he said, I encourage my clients to not call their previous partner their ex. He said, just that switch of calling them my daughter's father, my son's mother, because that's the role that they will continue to play throughout this whole co-parenting journey, right? So it's a mind shift for sure on how you see the other person. You have to see the other person as the way you see your child sees them, and they love them.
I love that. And we've all done that in divorce. We call them the ex. It is so
Mhm.
commonly done. And you're right. Like that parent is that it's always going to be in that child's life. So that's
Yeah,
really important how we label and how we talk, right?
absolutely. As our kids hear it, they see it, and they feel it. Even when you're trying to, like, hide your reaction, that little eye roll, the little sigh, you know, they see and know and hear and feel all of those things. So it's our job as a co-parent to take those feelings and you take them out, have a chat with your girlfriend, have a coffee, go sit to a therapist, all of those things. Take care of those feelings, but not in front of your children.
So why is it so hard, in your expert opinion, so hard for co-parents to do this?
Well, because they're stuck in the past. Well, he did this and he said that and this should have went this way and right? So typically, especially early in separation and divorce, as you may know, people are replaying what has happened, right? They're replaying all of the times that they were victimized or, they're dealing with a narcissist or all of those things. So we can't change the past, Karen. So, what you focus on grows. So if you want to focus on that past, you're going to continue to see that same behavior from the other person, right? So what we want to do, especially in my parent coaching, is we want to focus on, okay, where are you now? And where do you want this relationship to go? And sometimes you're able to rebuild a relationship and sometimes you're not. Let's be realistic. Sometimes people, you're not going to be able to have coffee together and have a wonderful, cool, calm conversation about what extracurricular activities the kids are going to be involved in. Sometimes that is not realistic, but it's really important to let go of the past and step and move forward into being the best parents you can be for your child, because it's hard enough as it is on the child to have the parents separated and going back and forth to two homes and navigating the different rules and emotions and just the way the homes are set up. It's our job to decrease that level of anxiety and change. We want to have some consistency there, and we have to let go of the past
D-
because there's nothing we can do to change it,
does that take
right?
practice?
Absolutely. Every day, every moment. When you think of that, your child's other parent, what are the thoughts going through your head? Can you flip them? You did spend time with them. You did marry them. What are some of those amazing traits that they do have? And focus on those. I mean, one of the things I used to do with my kids, when they'd talk about their father and stuff, and I'd say, you know what? Your father has the biggest heart and he loves so much and unconditionally. And that is true that I will say about my kid's father today. He absolutely has the biggest heart of the world, sometimes to his detriment, you know? And so I would speak those true things that I know about him as a person.
So when you think about, I want to just talk briefly about what you had said before, how, we all know, I mean, most people know, okay, no conflict in front of your children. That's been pretty well researched. And as you
Mhm,
mentioned, and I have to say, I think I did this myself early on, as well as I did a bit of eye rolling, or I did a bit of like, oh boy, you know.
mhm,
Um, so it was more behaviors than it was like, okay, because I remember saying, okay, we don't have conflict in front of the
yeah,
kids. We don't. And I'm like,
yeah,
tap on the back. Okay, good job, right? Not thinking that my other communication was also just as detrimental, but just different, right?
yeah, on a different layer, on that subtle layer, and kids are very intuitive. They feel that energy. And that sends them the message, well, if my other parent is, no good or, then that other parent is part of me. So then maybe I'm no good. None of us want our kids feeling or thinking that ever.
Yeah, it took me a while to actually realize that and then correct it. What
Yeah.
we did, it just as something that I did is if I needed to, as you said, if I needed to really vent, because most of us do need to vent about our co-parent,
Oh
right?
yeah. Hmm.
So
Yes, we do.
we do. So, and that's really healthy to do. So either I would go for a walk and be on the phone,
Hmm.
right? But my kids were a bit older. I was able to walk and talk.
Yeah,
So I don't know what other tips you have for other parents, but there has to be maybe even go to the bathroom and just kind of like cool down before. And then there has to be ways that parents can learn to deal with these, because the emotions come up and you get frustrated and it's hard not to.
absolutely.
react.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it depends on obviously the age of the children. So yours were older, you could go for a walk. Mine were babies.
Mhm.
Mine were 18 months and 3 years old when we split. So I was use that time after they were asleep in bed, get on the phone with the girls, and do my venting, when they're outside playing, find those little pockets. But I would also caution to limit your venting to 10 or 15 minutes,
Mm.
right? And then try to find something positive that's happening in your day, in your life, with your work, with your friends. Because the longer we stay in that venting mode, yes, it's important. It's like letting the pressure valve off, right? You have to let those emotions out. You have to let them go through you, but it's important not to sit in them. Right. So after time yourself on your vent. Okay. Get it all out in that 10 or 15 minutes and then flip the script because the longer you stay there, then that is going to perpetuate more of those negative thoughts about that person's behavior. And again, that's going to perpetuate their behavior. You get what you expect. So if you expect that you're going to go do a drop off and it's going to be an issue and there's going to be words and things like that, well, odds are that's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Right? So it's really important to, like I said, get it out. It's very important. We don't want to hold those emotions in, but give yourself a time limit, and don't stay stuck there in the past
Yeah,
and what has happened and what has transpired.
that's a good tip, actually. Another thing I want to touch down on is the different type of parenting styles, right? Because as soon as you divorce, um, I have a mediator colleague in Ontario here, and she told me about someone calling up about the fact that the kids aren't getting enough vegetables on the weekend, and that made her really, really angry. So when you divorce, the parenting styles come even more into focus. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. And, if you haven't done any work on what those two different parenting styles are, because 90% of the time they are very different, then it's going to be difficult to navigate those things. It comes down to some things you're going to have to let go, right? Because when you look at it, you have to look at it, is this going to matter in 10, 15 years? The the most important thing is that your child is safe, that they are loved, that they're able to express their feelings, that there's boundaries set in place for their well-being in all areas of their life. Yeah, I get the vegetable thing, annoying as anything, but I had to let it go because the most important thing to me was that they were developing a relationship with their father. They were enjoying their time. Yes, they would come home absolutely exhausted and oversugared and, all of these things. I would have to just take that deep breath and hold them tight and get back to the routines that we had at our place. You have to just realize what you're doing in your home is enough because you're not going to be able to change that other parent. We have to accept kind of unless there's safety involved, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's a different deal. But you have to learn to let those not that vegetables aren't important, trust me, they are. Um, but what is most important at the end of the day? And you really have to think about that as your child's well-being emotionally is number one.
Is in your opinion, is it more mothers that struggle with this than fathers?
Struggles with the different
Yeah,
parenting
the different
styles?
parenting styles.
Absolutely, I would say so. I know I did. Because there are babies. We birth them, and typically we have to take the responsibility of developing all of these things, and to have someone just kind of trash all of that it's upsetting. It happened with my kid's father. They were very young going to visit, and I would send a journal of everything. Like I would write out what they were eating, what their bedtime routines, what they were new words they were saying, like everything. It was like a document, right? It was cathartic for me because there was so little and they were going for like 7 days or 10 days, and it was difficult. And, but my kid's father, he would never respond to the journal because in his mind, he said, "Why are you trying to tell me how to parent?" And I was like, "But I'm not. I just want you to get to know your kids because they change." He only saw them every couple of months, so they change a lot. So I figured this was information that would be helpful, but he didn't view it that way. And then they also had food intolerances. wheat, corn, potato, cow's milk, sugar. So I would encourage and send recipes. They shouldn't be, all that went out the window. There was nothing I could do. I had to let it go.
Yeah, that must have been hard to do though, right? Is because you knew them,
Absolutely.
like you were sounds like you were more primary caregiver, right? So, right.
Absolutely.
So it must have been hard to just, especially because they're just little, right? And they can't really, so that would have been hard to do.
It was really hard to do. But again, I had to come back to what's most important. They're spending time with their father. They're building a relationship with him. He's getting to know them. They're getting to know him.
Could
They're having a good
could
time.
that be an affirmation for parents that are going through this? Like what you said, like they're getting to know their father, like just to try to
Yeah,
um, calm them down or to make them feel,
absolutely.
um, less worried about the kids.
Absolutely. I mean, unless there's serious danger
Mhm.
involved, that other parent loves their children. It might not be in the same way as yours that you do, but it is still that genuine love. And those children deserve to have and receive the love of the other parent. I obviously did counseling, therapy, all that jazz as well. And, I had a therapist say to me, because went in and I was just so angry, right? I'm like, I could just, roar. And he looked at me and he said, "You know why you're so angry, Natalie?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Well," he said, "you're giving 100%, but the kid's father, I want you to understand, he's giving 100% as well. But his 100% is not yours." Right? And my whole body relaxed and I calmed and I'm like, how can I be upset with him? He is giving all he has. Why am I angry at someone that doesn't have the capability to give the 100% that I expect or I think? Why am I angry? Like, it literally just melted away. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree. You either have it or you don't, right? Certain these skills of parenting, like, they don't come automatic to people. Coming as a parent coach, right? It's, you're muddling through a whole bunch of stuff the way you were raised, and I could go off on a tangent about that, but just I had to let that go. His 100% was not my 100%.
Yeah, and
Period.
it's kind of interesting that we expect them to be right.
Mhm.
We were married to this person. We knew what their strengths were. We knew what their, whatever. And then all of a sudden, we divorce and we expect them to be the same type of parent that we are. It's
Not gonna
kind of
happen.
strange that we actually do that, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because it doesn't even make sense, right? Because
Yeah.
and I love what your therapist said because it's like they're just doing the best they can. Except it's more of an internal thing and that we have to
It
work
is.
on
Yeah.
during a really
Absolutely.
challenging time, which is going through divorce, right?
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
So, what are some, like we talked about conflict. I think I mentioned it before we started the podcast that I was, as a child of divorce, I was used as the messenger. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's as common anymore. You would know that better than I would, but I was the one that would give the checks to my mom because my
Mhm.
dad couldn't talk to my mom. It was like, so here I was, 8 years old, standing at the doorway, getting the checks and giving them to like, it was really, really, they didn't
Yeah,
know any better. And it
difficult.
was really, really bad. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure. Is that being, what are some of the things that you see happening more or lately?
Well, definitely we should not involve the children as messengers for sure. That, goes without saying. Some of the things that I think are kind of happening is holding on to those resentments from the past. And nowadays, so much more communication is happening through text. And that is not the best way to communicate with your co parent, right? Because they're sent at any time of day. People feel like they have to respond. People don't usually take the time that they need to respond instead of react. Things are misrepresented in texts, so I really, communication through texting it may work for some co-parents, but from what I've seen, not so much. That to really get to the ground of what you need to discuss is the well-being of your child, right? Nothing else. The other thing I see happening is, parents that they have to, it's a simple issue they need to discuss. They send an email, but the email is 3 pages long with all this other crap that went on. Right? Like, I always tell my clients, look, let's adopt a business-like approach, right? take all the emotion out of any sort of communication. Like it's not going to serve anybody. It's going to inflame the other person and just cause more issues than are necessary. Right. So really the communication is a big one. And like you said, your parents couldn't. So that's why, enlist the help of a parent coach. I'm like the go between my two conflicting parents. And so I see both people's point of view. I remain neutral. I don't share information unless I'm given permission. But my job is to help the other one navigate and do what's best for their child, because first and foremost, that's what's most important.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to mention too, that, as you're going through divorce, learning to become a co-parent is hard. Like, it's not
Hmm.
a natural thing, right?
No.
Like, it takes time, right? And I just wanted to mention there's a grief component in there, right? Because um, one of the things that I've said on other podcasts too is that if it's pretty hard when you see them every day and then you don't see them every day, right? You're doing the whatever 2-2-3 or 1 week on, 1 week off. But I want anyone that's listening to understand, when you're sad or you're grieving or however you grieve, um, as a child of divorce myself, um, your child's grieving 100% of the time,
Mm,
right? Like, they're the ones, as you
yeah,
said at the beginning, transitioning, moving, adjusting, right? And I suspect you also want the most routines possible. Like, is that also one of your recommendations?
absolutely. As much as possible. Obviously 2 homes are different, but that familiarity of a story at bedtime, you know, um, snack after school, right? Singing songs together, like, just doing things that the child enjoys. So often each parent is like, well, I like to ski, so I'm going to take my kids skiing all the time. Well, what if your kids don't like skiing? Why don't you focus on what your child enjoys to do? And that was one of the beneficial things that I was trying to put out with this journal that I was sending my kid's father, right? Here's what they enjoy doing, so let's focus on what the child enjoys doing and not what each adult, and bring some of that sort of consistency to their lives, because consistency for a child equals safety,
Yeah, it's really, really
and we want
important.
them to feel safe.
Yeah, that's really important. Can you mention about the Disney parent? The one parent that takes them, so
Oh, yeah.
I just want to, you're struggling along, you're doing it all on your own, and financially it's tough and you're cutting corners. And then, the other parent is doing, very well. And they're like, well, we're going to Disney or we're going here. And
Yeah.
that, all good for the kids, but maybe help the parent that has to deal with that, how hard that can be.
Oh, well, I'm very familiar with that. My kid's father was the Disney parent. He saw them 3 to 4 times a year, and it was a ski trip, or, it was, all kinds of excitement all the time, right? And, how, first of all, the first thing I had to do was deal with my grief of them being gone, because I was with them for 3 to 4 months at a time, and then they're gone for the 7 to 10 days. So that was my first mission, was to really identify that emptiness, that I really felt physically empty in my body, and I had to do my best to find what other things are going to fill me up. Did I do a great job of that all the time? No, I didn't. Sometimes I just sat in that grief and cleaned my house, and then missed them until they get back. But I also had to look at it like they're getting these amazing experiences that I'm not able to give them right now, and that's okay. That they have that fun, sort of loving relationship. It is a relationship. At least somebody's be able to give them some, super exciting. It was not something I could financially do. So, give her. It was for the benefit of my kids. And, at the same time, you have to let the kids understand, and they see that difference. They know that, mom's like all about the soccer schedule and what we're having for dinner, and, you know, and I always made sure that we had our different types of fun, a bonfire in the backyard in the middle of the winter, or, jumping in piles of leaves. Sometimes people don't realize the impact of just those little things that you do with your kids, right? The movie nights with the popcorn, like just those simple, just snuggle times. Those are so valuable and they're so consistent. That's what builds that emotional intelligence and that safety and security and self confidence in the kids, right? So, one trip to Disney, well, great. Your kids had a blast and they were overstimulated and oversugared and, but what we're really building is this self-confidence and emotional intelligence in our kids. And we do that with those little tiny things we do each and every day. And they are more important.
Yeah, I was just to say, I think about my mom, and I think those are the moments I cherish the most.
Hmm.
My dad was an accountant. It was easier for him to do a lot more stuff, but it was her that was my secure base.
Yeah.
Like, both have died. And with her it was devastation because that was like,
Hmm.
she was that person for me. She was
Hmm.
secure. She was everything. So, and it wasn't trips. It was what you
No,
said, right? It was a little consistency, the love. She was there. And that's another thing. When you show up for your kids, that's what they really need too.
absolutely.
So what are some tips that you could give some of these new parents that are just learning this co-parenting stuff that is difficult to do?
Yeah, it is difficult and the work starts inside. As we mentioned at the beginning, you got to shift your mindset and let go much of the past as you can, first and foremost, right? And then you want to choose the right communication vehicle for you and the other parent, right? Like I said, texting is not always optimal. Maybe you want to do email. Maybe you want to try some of the co parenting apps that are out there, right? And then, keep that communication businesslike. Take out all the emotion and just get across what needs to be get across, communicated and see if there's issues that are difficult. That's going to take a bit more communication. But again, the emotion has to be taken out of it. Make lists, but not demands. You can't demand that the other person is going to do exactly what you want them to do, like we said, or how we want them to do it. That's just, it's not realistic, guys. So, you know, you have to keep the focus on your child, all about them, what they need, and really manage your stress effectively. So that comes into definitely taking time to take care of yourself, to do that venting, to hold your grief, right? I'm that without a full cup, we're not going to be able to parent the best we can parent. So every one of my clients, whether they come to me through for co-parenting or not, we have to fill our own cup and find ways to do that, even if it's 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, I think you're a pretty big component of that, right? Of the metaphor of, if you're on the airplane, put the mask on first before you put it on your child. I think that's a really important thing to do. And I remember myself going through at the beginning of the divorce. I never did that, right? It was always just survival and
Hmm.
getting through it. And it was a pretty high conflict divorce, and I was on edge. And it wasn't till years into it that I started, now this is really important. But I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think at the beginning, we really need to kind of, what do I need, even if it's 10 minutes?
Yeah, and that has to be the focus, and like you, Karen, did I do it? No. As well as I should have? Absolutely not, but that's in hindsight looking back, and I wanna talk to all those newly divorced people out there. It's the best thing you can do, not just because you're coming into parenting your child with more of you, right? You are authentic and calm and able to respond instead of react, but guess what? Your kid is watching you. So they're watching mom take time for herself. They're watching mom value herself. Isn't that what we want for all our kids, to value themselves? The most powerful tool in parenting is modeling. Show them. You can tell them till you're blue in the face. Show them what it means to value yourself. Then they will do it too.
Yeah, I think about back to my mother and my dad, and I remember thinking as an adult how well my mom went through this.
Mm,
She didn't talk much about my dad. She was pretty calm, and it was the 70s, right? 80s. It's not like there was a lot,
yeah,
there wasn't you and I out there, or podcasts or books or anything. And
nothing.
she really kept it quite well. And I remember, that's another thing is, as a parent, think about what your child's going to think when they're an adult of how you behaved
Hmm.
during the divorce. I thought
Absolutely.
that's also something that you can sit with as well, right? And how you behave. I
Hmm.
really love that though. Natalie, it's behavior, right? It's how we model ourselves. So
Absolutely. It's powerful in every age and stage of parenting, actually, you know, with a child with behavior issues or with your teenager. I mean, it's a kind of a mainstay, that modeling. But again, that starts with us looking in the mirror and being aware of what is triggering us, what are some resentments we're holding on to. Like, we have to do that deep inner work.
yeah, and I just want to say that, you can repair with your kids, right? Like I've done that many
Absolutely.
times, right? Where
Always.
I've overreacted or whatever, and I've gone with my tail tucked between my legs and said, "Look, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry." I didn't have that growing up, by the way. I don't know
No,
about you.
not our generation. That
Yeah.
wasn't a thing.
Yeah, that
That
was
wasn't a thing. It was just shut up and put up, right?
right.
But I mean, that's so powerful. And I want you to think, like, listen, imagine if none of our kids' lives are going to be rainbows and butterflies the whole time. But imagine if it was. How would they learn resilience? How would they learn to deal with conflict and repair in their own adult lives or in their teenage lives when they have a disagreement with a friend? So those screw ups that we all are going to make, they're an opportunity for us to teach and to model that, I screwed up, I'm sorry, those repairing things, because that's a skill that our kids are going to need throughout their lifetime. So, don't beat yourself up about that, because we all make mistakes. I mean, definitely as a parent coach, I'm definitely not a perfect parent, and I will never, there is no such thing. I made my share of mistakes, as we all do, but it is that repairing piece that we're also teaching them a skill
Yeah,
to use in their
and it
lifetime.
actually brings in connection. It actually brings in more, right,
Absolutely.
attachment and connection, and knowing that we're responsible for our behavior too, right?
Absolutely. And they see us then as authentic and as vulnerable, right? Like, we can't be as this parent on a mountaintop, like, oh, I'm perfect and nothing ever goes wrong and I do everything great. And no, kids want, especially as they get older, want to see that vulnerable side of you as a person, not just as the parent, right? Allow them to see that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, perfect. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to say before I ask the last question?
I think all you can do is the best you can do. And take care of yourself is first and foremost. But also, now that there's parent coaches out there that's like me, that specialize in this kind of work, reach out. Because what I found when I got into the parent coaching is a lot of people I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, right? They didn't know what what are you, a parent? What is that? Are you super nanny going to come into my house and tell me everything that I'm doing wrong? And I really want to get the message out there that that's not what we do. We are like a co-creator with you. We help you navigate whatever challenges that your family's going through, whether that be co-parenting or something else. And we base our sessions on your values and your strengths, and we co-create together the solutions to bring you to where you want your family to be. So it's really, don't feel bad. To me, it's a strength to reach out for help. I've always said this parenting thing is how we're going to change the world. It will change absolutely everything in the world if we focus and spend our time making sure that we are raising our kids to the best of our ability. So reach out for help if you need it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of concerns or issues that we have on today is and even history past, right? Like if I think of parenting styles or parenting years and years and decades
Mhm.
ago, yeah, we need help, like we really do. So I'm glad you guys
It
are
doesn't come naturally to every
not to
person.
everybody.
We just automatically think, "Oh, you're a mother. You pushed out a kid. Oh, you know about this mothering thing." I thought I knew what I was doing. I was at 10 years being a teacher, and I read all the books, and didn't have a clue. Not one.
Yeah, it's a lot harder
Right?
than you think, right?
Yeah,
To do it.
yeah. It is, especially when you love so much and you want to do your best, right, for your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ask this question for everybody who comes on. For someone who's just separated, where they left or were left, what advice would you give them to help them navigate those overwhelming early days?
Reach out to your support network. You need some people around you to support you, to take those 10, 15-minute vents to let the pressure off, right? And, try not to revisit the past too much, even though I know that's the time, right? When it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And before you're able to even start looking at the other person in a positive light, their positive attributes, go go inward. What do I need right now? Do I need a good cry? Do I need to go for a run? Do I need to eat a whole chocolate cake? Like what do I need right now, and spend some time focusing on that intuition of what your body needs, and what, not just what your mind is telling you it needs. What is your body telling you it needs, and do that in those early days. Keep following that.
And you will get through it.
You will get through it. You will get through it. It's and because you have no choice not to. This is for your kids, right? This is what we do, right? So, you know that by taking care of what you need, you are taking care of them.
All right, perfect. And I know you have the Sink or Swim parenting book.
Yes.
And I know you have coaching one-on-one or with both parents. Do you work with both
Yes.
parents that are actually still like parents as well as co-parents?
Yes, absolutely. I work with all parents from toddlers to teens, from behavior problems, special needs to co-parents. When I work with co-parents, though, I work with them separately in separate sessions, because I want the session to be feel open and safe to share all of their perspectives on the different situations, right? So right now, I only offer the one-on-one coaching, and I also have a podcast called Mom Life Uncomplicated for parents that just want some, interesting information. I interview a lot of parent coaching experts and psychologists and occupational therapists. So we have a lot of great conversations over there. And I also have a community for parents that they can sign up on my website, nataliemccabe.com. And the community, I've gathered a variety of parent coaches, ones that deal with specific issues, right? Whether it's toddler needs or breastfeeding or LGBTQ community. And we've all gathered together, and it's a community where parents can interact with those coaches and find a coach that works for them, right?
It's perfect, and it's so needed. I'm so glad
Mm-hmm.
that you guys are all coming out there, because, as I said at the beginning, I mean, we all could have used this, Natalie.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just a couple sessions, just to kind of ground yourself, learn some of the tools that you have to offer, because it's really, as a parent, as a child of a high conflict divorce, I spent years in therapy after.
Yeah,
So take this warning of myself and probably others, that invest in something that can help you become a better parent, which is best for your children. So I appreciate
absolutely.
your work so much, and I so glad you came on today to share all little tips with us. And I hope people reach out to you and get some help.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks for joining today's conversation with our divorce expert. Check out the show notes for more about our guests, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify and our YouTube channel, divorceworkshop.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Share your questions, comments, or guest suggestions. And for a complete guide to navigating separation and divorce, check out the Just Separated workbook on Amazon. It covers emotions, co-parenting, finances, legal insights, and recovery. A must-have for anyone going through separation or divorce.